So, is this Shakespeare Ugly Stik worth buying at less than $17? Well, the short answer to that is of course. I mean, it's an ugly stick. Those are considered by most people to be a good value rod. They're better made than a lot of the lower end rods. You can usually pick them up for reasonable prices, and this is made more like the old school Shakespeare Ugly Sticks with the same type of thread work and things on it. It's just a good rod. I mean, it's going to serve someone well. It's a lot better quality than the reel that it comes with, but the reel isn't that bad either, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. I did have a couple of things on the reel that I'd like to point out. Other than that, it works fine. The kit that it comes with has a few lures to get someone started, mostly for panfish type fishing. This would be a good rod and reel setup for catching bait fish or panfish, or even trout for that matter. I actually used this rod fishing in some brackish water near the ocean, and I actually caught a pretty good sized redfish with it, and it held up just fine for that. You know, in short, yeah, this is a no-brainer really. At under $17, you can pick these up on Walmart right now. They've reduced the price on these. In the store I was at where I picked this one up, they retailed at $25. They'll vary in price from store to store, but if you go and ask them if they'll price match, most stores will, most Walmart stores will, they'll price match their own online prices. So if you'll just ask them nicely, can you price match this? If they have this in stock, you can go pick it up in the store that way, or you can order them online and get them in a couple of days shipped direct to the store. Okay, here's the deal on the reel. It uses a plastic spool. It does use a metal drag clicker. The spool is not real heavy duty. I just stick the monofilament on it. I did find that the click mechanism in the drag adjustment knob is actually uses detents and a ball, a spring-loaded ball, which is actually pretty nice. Most of them just use a little plastic clicker. That's actually a little better setup on this reel than a lot of the low-end reels have. The drag washer setup came with a 6-disc drag setup. 3 of the discs are felt discs and 3 of them are metal discs. The felt discs were not oiled from the factory, so I lubricated those. I like to use Super Lube synthetic oil. When I caught that redfish, it made several hard runs, and it came with 6-pound line on the reel. I used it. The line's pretty much garbage, but I used it. I just tied it to something and stretched the line before I used it. I stretched about 100 yards of line to take away the memory effect. The redfish I caught made several hard runs. The drag worked perfect. It did what it was supposed to do. I was able to land a fairly good sized fish that was really fighting hard on some pretty crappy 6-pound monofilament without any problems. Just 2 quick notes here. If you do take apart your drag washer stack, make sure you put the tabbed metal washer in the middle. If you put it on top, what'll happen is as your drag goes out, it will actually tighten your drag knob. That top plate has to be able to spin freely in there. So if you accidentally put the one with the little ears on it on the top, it will turn with the spool, which will make your drag knob actually tighten up as the drag is being pulled out by a fish. So you don't want that. That can end up snapping your line. And also make sure that when you go to put back in the spring-loaded clip that you get it in the groove that it's supposed to be seated in. If you don't, it could come out. It could also slide around in there and cause you problems. So make sure that you get that back seated in its groove the way it's supposed to be. So yeah, the anti-reverse failed the first time out. It was a simple fix. Let me just show you how this anti-reverse works. It's a real simple setup. There's a anti-reverse pawl that engages on the gears that are around the inside of the rotor of the spinning reel. In order for this anti-reverse to be silent, it uses a spring that is mounted onto a plastic piece that goes over the pinion shaft. When the reel rotates one direction, the spring allows the anti-reverse pawl to be away from the gears that are cut into the rotor. And when the anti-reverse engages, that same spring actuates the pawl into the gears. It's a real simple setup and it's an effective setup. And this anti-reverse actually uses a metal anti-reverse pawl, which is highly unusual for an inexpensive reel. They're almost always plastic. This one's metal. I think that's a better setup. It's not a real strong metal. It's probably a zinc alloy, but it's still better than most plastics as far as strength goes. So it's not a bad setup, but what caused the failure was they used too much oil at the factory when they assembled this, and that oil got into the groove that is on the plastic piece that actuates that spring. That excess oil actually caused the spring to slip on that plastic shaft in that groove, so it couldn't get any kind of bite on it at all. It was just sliding around on it. So it was an easy fix. I just had to take the rotor off of the spinning reel and pull off the little plastic piece and basically just degrease it with a little soapy water, dried everything off, reinstalled everything, and it's worked fine ever since. So yeah, this is a no-brainer. This is less than $17. The rod's worth that. The rod's worth more than that. The reel is okay. You can get some use out of it. It comes with actually some tackle, some hooks, some sinkers, some grubs, a spinner that's kind of like a beetle spin type of a spinner. It comes with some hair jigs, some tubes, some jig heads. You know, there's really easily $5 worth of gear there as far as hooks and sinkers and stuff like that goes. You know, you're getting the reel and the gear that goes with it for less than the cost of a Ugly Stik rod. You really can't go wrong on that. So I'm going to recommend this. There's a few caveats on the reel, some things to watch out for that I mentioned. Other than that, though, the reel's not too bad. It uses a brass pinion gear. It's a single bearing reel. It's just got a bearing on the pinion gear. But the brass pinion gear and the alloy main drive gear setup is a good one. I always like to see that in a reel as opposed to two alloy gears meshed together. It just seems like the brass and alloy together hold up better over the long run. So I'm going to recommend this one. Go out there and see if you can find one. If you need a rod and reel setup to give to a kid, or to give to someone who's just getting started fishing, or if you need one for yourself as a backup. Me, in my case, I didn't want to ruin my good gear down in saltwater, so I just picked up this at Walmart to use just to see what I could catch on it. Just having fun, you know, wasn't doing anything too serious. And I caught a good fish. You know, I've never caught a redfish before. I got a good one. The rod and reel held up fine for that. So I'm going to give this one a thumbs up, and I'm going to recommend it to you if you're looking for something like this. I think that you can't really go wrong on this deal. Thanks for watching, guys, and tight lines.